Welcome back, everyone. We'll give it, just like we did yesterday, we'll give it about 5 minutes. So everybody who wants to come in can come in, and then and get your environment set up and everything, and then we'll finish out today. All right. Welcome back, everyone, to day 2, the final day of the pen testing workshop. I'm glad to see everyone back who was able to make it back today. Um, and hopefully everyone, got excited about what we did yesterday. Because what we're going to do today is we're going to feed off a lot about what we did yesterday, where we looked at did some system scanning and things. Now we're actually going to start moving away from that and start doing some web app stuff. And then we're also going to, again, look at a scenario, just based off of what I've been tasked throughout my career. I kind of made up a scenario based off of situations that I've been in. to where we'll actually be able to execute that in a pen test like attack path on the target host. And then we'll finish out the day with just, a quick conclusion, and then open up the floor to Q&A, just like we did yesterday. So let's go ahead. We got a lot to do today, so we're going to go ahead and jump into it. Hopefully everyone took the time between getting into the chat room and now to get their environment stood up. So yesterday we finished off where we attacked FTP, right? FTP is a reasonably easy service to attack if it's left vulnerable. So what we're going to be reaching out and expanding on after that right now, before we start talking about web apps, is we're actually going to be talking about other services that are like that, right? And so in the industry, we call these services, these easy to exploit services, we call them low-hanging fruit, right? And a low-hanging fruit is a service that if it's left unpatched or if it's left open, it's easily exploitable, right? So with pen testing and just in security in general, you'll see things come out every year where you'll see something that's really detrimental because it's easy to exploit, and a lot of companies will use whatever service or they'll use whatever service is being used that's being exploited. The most common one that you see in recent years is SMB or Samba, and you'll see exploits that exploit that service, such as Eternal Blue, right? We heard about that a couple of years ago. That was the exploit that was being used to launch ransomware on hospitals, things like that. Last year we had Blue Keep, which was it was an exploit that targeted remote desktop. And these are easy things to exploit because once they come out, typically there's like an exploit that comes out from Metasploit that allows you to just literally point at the target, run the exploit, and then hit it, and then get a shell, right? And we saw that yesterday with the FTP service that we attacked. That was technically a low-hanging fruit. It was an unpatched service, way out of date, right? So when we were looking at what's in front of us, right, it says low-hanging fruit are typically vulnerable services that are extremely easy to exploit, right? We just said that. They're left open or vulnerable because a lot of times servers are forgotten about. A lot of times when I'm pen testing and I see something that's, a patch that hasn't been applied in 2 years, and it leaves a server vulnerable, big thing that I always hear is, oh, we forgot that server was even there. So a lot of it's system configuration and management, right? Services can be updated due to a business process need, right? What that means is that, we have to update the server, but we can't bring it down because it's a production server that's doing a lot of things for us. Okay, well, as a pen tester, offensive security engineer, your job is to work with those individuals to say, hey, well, let's work on spinning up something like this where we can use that to mitigate or to take all the traffic that's going to your production server that we need to patch, and let's direct it to this temporary site really quick, right? Or let's advise your users that we have to bring this thing down so that we can work on it, right? That's your job as a pen tester, is to give everyone a route on how they can fix something. It's not your job to fix it, but it's your job to tell them the different routes of least resistance on how they can fix it. And then lack of security awareness, that's another big thing. A lot of times it's just, we didn't think not applying that patch was a big deal. And there will be reasons, some better than others, of why they didn't apply the patch due to not knowing or not being aware or thinking it's not really that big of a risk or that big of an issue. However, for those of you that get into pen testing or work with pen testers, you'll notice that even small little issues can become really, really, really big problems. So, I'm trying to get this slide to work. There it goes. All right. So we're going to actually go ahead and we're going to start attacking some low-hanging fruit. We're going to just target one service on the machine that we're targeting. So we're going to go back to our scan results. We can actually just go ahead and if you saved your scan results, if you saved this machine state from yesterday, you can bring it up. We're going to look at some of the services that stood out, right? And the one that I really want you to look at is going to be Samba. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and we'll actually just rescan the machine, and then we'll do a more targeted, detailed scan to look at Samba. So, and then Samba is a Linux variation of SMB, which SMB is the service for Windows, and it basically does the same stuff for Linux that it does for Windows, right? So let's go ahead and let's get cracking. So this is now we'll need to get our Kali Linux machine up. So for those of you that don't have it up, go ahead and take this time for a second to get it spun up. Also, I figured out yesterday why my I couldn't get a shell on the FTP service. It's because I had done that. I had ran through a dry run through that and got a shell previously and didn't reset the machine. So it already had a connection on there. So it was a conflict. Here. So I'm gonna again check, make sure we're on the right network. I'm gonna do simple scan just to double check. And it looks like it stayed the same. It's still at 10.0.2.5. All right, so now, yes, and if you want to run as root, I'm already as root, but you should be able to do that. SU. Sometimes you might need to put the little pack there. I do that. I'm already running as root though. Now we're going to run another scan on the host. So we'll do a service scan again, right? Because we want to see if we can find the Samba service. Let that run for a second. All right. So if you look at the scan results, right? We got all these services again, right? All these guys. This is the one that we would look at. This is the one that we really want to target. So we're going to take note that we're running that port 445 is running Samba. Right, so there's a couple things that we can do to enumerate some things from the Samba service. So one of the commands that that I always like to use first is SMB client, and we use TechL just to see if we can just connect to the Samba service without any kind of like authentication. So again, that's TechL. And it didn't let us get on there. All right, well, that's no fun. So while we don't want to spend a lot of time doing a lot of research, right? Because if we did that, we would be spending the rest of the time just trying to find something about this target, right? So I've already done all the heavy lifting for you guys to double check and see where we can find something to exploit. So let's say we say, okay, cool, we can't connect to it, but we know it's running this Samba service. It's the Samba SB or SMBD 3.x, right? So and you can use various research methods, however you want to scramble on the internet to find stuff. So let's say we find something that works, right? Okay. So we know that there's an exploit in Metasploit that allow us to attack this, right? Because we're worried about attacking a low-hanging fruit. We want to have the quick 1, 2, 3 punch. That's what attacking low-hanging fruit's all about. So we're going to start up Metasploit again. This says it's already running. I forgot to reset this machine state. So, but you can. So again, you type in. That's in the chat for everyone. You get Metasploit up and running. So remember, the keyword to look for things is search. Oops. The keyword we use is search, right? And let's say we wanted to search Samba. Wait, still running. Okay, we'll give it. Sorry if I'm talking too fast. We got a lot to go over. So I'll give it a second for everyone catching up. So we see all these exploits in here, right? We see a bunch of auxiliaries, and then we see a bunch of exploits. So the one that we're going to use, and I'll put it in the chat for you guys, the user map script. And what that does is it's command execution, and we're going to see some more stuff with command execution soon. What is the CMD you use to search? Yeah, the keyword is search. So you would do search Samba, and then you'll have this exploit, right? And the keyword to load an exploit in the Metasploit is use. And we run the or we select the exploit, right? So we're not gonna, it's not running or anything. We just selected it. Think about it as it's the payload that you've loaded in, right? So you've loaded it up, and you're ready to point it somewhere. So now, yes, you can use searchploit too. That's part of gathering information, right? Which we'll talk about later today. So we have it loaded up. So now we need to see what's in here. What are the options and the parameters that we have to set? So you use the options command. You can also type the number of the exploit, correct. I don't like using the number because it hurts my eyes. So I just select it. But if you feel free to use the number if that works for you. So we're going to be actually attacking it. We're going to try to attack it on port 139, right, which is another port associated with NetBIOS. So, and Samba was running on this port on the host that we're targeting. So now as we have to do, this one's pretty simple, right? All it needs is a host to target. That's it. That's it. So we do set, right? Sets the command that we have to use, and then our host is the parameter that we're putting in, and then we need to give it the value for host. So we've given it the IP or the host name, whatever you want to associate it with. It needs an IP or host name, and that's it. And now we can double verify, right? For when you have some exploits and that require a lot of different input, it's good to just reevaluate your exploit before you launch it, especially in pen testing and offensive security. A lot of times you only have one shot. You have one shot because then you might get caught, and if you get caught, then it's game over, right? Because a big part about pen testing and red teaming and offensive security is that we want to ensure that we are making sure that we're exploiting things to the best of our capabilities, but we also want to make sure that we're being we're not being detected, because we're also testing defenses as well. We want to make sure that if there are safeguards or controls in place, that we're bypassing them, because then we can turn around and describe the impact based on bypassing defenses, and how we can actually build better defenses for our clients, or if you're doing it as an internal pen tester, how you can do it for your own company. Josh asked, do we need to set the R port as well? No, the R port's already set, right? So we have 2 ports on the target that we're running Samba. We had 139 and 445. So in this case, if 139 doesn't work, then the next thing to do would to try and attack it on port 445. But for this case, we're just going to do 139. So we've evaluated everything. We've double checked ourselves. We have our exploit ready to go. We just type run. And as you can see, it says now we have a command shell open. So now we should be able to type like any kind of Unix command. So we can see that I'm root. There we go. So I pulled up the user ID that we're root, right? We're the root user. So we have complete control of the system now, and we want to verify that we're the host name. And a lot of times in pen testing, if you ever get a connection on a system, this is where you would have to take a screenshot, right? So if you wanted to take a screenshot of something to show proof, you would want to capture all this key stuff right here, right? And I don't know if it's gonna. Okay. So, and this is a good point to point out, because what this is showing us the attack method that we used, right? It's showing us that we use Metasploit. It shows where the connection is going, right? It says it's going to 10.0.2.5 and what port it's going on, because what's going to happen is in a pen test scenario, this is going to be left open, right? It's creating a new port and opening it up on the target. So when you report that and you give a screenshot such as this and you illustrate it to the client, they can say, okay, well, we need to go back and we need to fix that. And then also we need to close down that port. Because otherwise, if they just fix it, that port's still open, and that creates an issue, right? The other thing is too, is it also shows where we're attacking from. It says that, you know, it's got RIP on it, and it's attacking over port 44444, or well, quadruple 4, right? So it's letting them know, okay, so this was you. So if something were to come back and during a pen test report or during a post pen test, when they're evaluating their systems and everything, and they think that something else is going on, then they can look at that and say, okay, this is them or it isn't them. You can also do that during a pen test. That happens a lot, where during a pen test, you'll get alerted and someone will ask you like, hey, was this you? Did you do this? And they'll provide you a log. If they don't, you need to get a log to verify. And you'll get a log and you'll look at all the stuff and you'll say, no, that wasn't me. And you have documentation like this that shows like, hey, that wasn't me. This is what I did, right? And you have to do those at focal points during a pen test. And a focal point can be anywhere from where you get access to a machine like this, or where you're doing something that's really noisy, you're generating a lot of traffic, things like that. So the more documentation you have, the better. This also illustrates, I can say, hey, I got root privilege. I automatically got root access to your machine. That shouldn't happen. That should not happen ever. You should never be able to get automatic root privileges onto a machine when you establish a connection, ever. So that's another issue. You can prove here, hey, I got on as a root user without having to do anything. So, and then, so another question is, what if they find infrastructure that doesn't allow it to be closed, like they have to have an old server that needs it for, say, legal documents? Great question. If something like that happens, you need to put something behind a firewall, some kind of protection, and you need to segregate it from the rest of your network. Easiest fix. So, did everybody get to do it? That's the one thing. I want to make sure that people were able to do it. And if you have troubles, try it again. Try it on a different port, right? If we want to background it, all you have to do is press Control C, and it backgrounds into a session. Say yes. But it looks like it closed. Like it decided to close completely. Could we use it to detect the vulnerability on my local machine? Yes. I'm the only one that got the connection refused. Try it on a different port. All right. So now we're going to do a lot more fun stuff. We're going to keep chugging along, right? Because we only got an hour and a half left. So now what we're going to do is now we're going to look at web app pen testing, right? Web app pen testing is going to be is totally different than system pen testing. You're using a whole different suite of tools, a lot of different stuff, right? So web app pen testing, it's important because everything's a web application now. Everything is a web application. Everything's a web app application and everything's a mobile application now, for the most part, right? So it's really crucial to understand how we can do some basic pen testing for web apps, right? So you're going to hear a lot of tools like Nikto, Burp Suite, things like that. This isn't going to be like a crash course in the Burp Suite. I don't anticipate having to open it up just because it's a very detailed tool that we could have a whole nother workshop on. So, but if you are interested in doing web application pen testing and you want to do it as a side hobby, you can do something called bug bounty. And I've listed two different things down here where it says BugCrowd and HackerOne. Those are two websites that have, it's called Bug Bounty as a service. It's where you go on there, you set up an account, and then you can actually go hack companies on that platform for free. And not just for free, you actually can get paid if you find bugs. You know, and you see people make a couple $100 to, I know a couple people that make a living doing that. So, so it's a big thing, right? So, what's the website? There's HackerOne and BugCrowd. Those are the two websites. So one of the big things that we test for when we're doing pen testing is we look for things based off of the OWASP top 10, right? The OWASP stands for the Open Web Application Security Project, right? And they list out, every year they list out the top 10 vulnerabilities that they see in web apps. And that's based off various things of collected data. So some of the biggest things that we see are the ones right here. We have injection, broken auth, sensitive data exposure, XML external entity. You might also see that called XEE. Broken access codes, security misconfigurations, cross-site scripting, and insufficient logging. So those are what they put out. As someone who does this for a living, the biggest things that I see that are impactful are broken authentication, sensitive data exposure, and insufficient logging. Those are the three that I see very commonly that lead to pretty large impactful issues. Not saying that these other ones aren't big. Injection is a very big one. However, a lot of companies now have security safeguards put in place that if you can inject something into a website, there's a lot of things going on in the background, so to say, that prevent it from happening. But not saying it doesn't happen, because it does happen a lot. So, and as Josh said, yes, Burp Suite Pro, he got it as a trial, and it's intense and confusing. There's coursework that you can find that's like 4 hours long just to learn that. And that only skims the basis. If you want to learn it, you can also go to Port Swigger. I put that in the chat. They're the ones who created Burp Suite, and they have a whole free class on how to do it. So, scanning websites, right? We have to scan things before we can do anything. So scanning a web server is similar to scanning a host, right? We did it in previous exercises. It's the same thing. We're just scanning it for vulnerabilities and for things that we can find on it. So, one of the big tools that we use is Nikto. Nikto is a terminal-based vulnerability scanner for web applications. It'll tell you a lot of stuff, and it'll give you a lot of feedback and info based on your target, right? It's easy to use, it's automated, you can run it and then do something else while you're waiting for the scan results to come back, just like we can do with Nmap. So, let's go ahead and let's open up our Kali machine again. Okay. All right, so I gotta make sure I don't have any. Nope, that's different. Now we're gonna use Nikto. So the command to start Nikto, I'll put it in here for you guys. Nikto, put the switch for TAC H for host. May need to put HTTP just so it knows what protocol to send it over. And we put our target. And we let it run. And it's going to show you a lot of stuff. If any of you decide to go take OSCP in the labs, Nikto is one of your best friends when you're scanning web hosts. And as you can see, there's a lot of stuff here, right? We already start seeing all these directories come up. Right? We're seeing so much stuff come up here. It's telling us that it's being that PHP myadmin is here. You can use Nikto for HTTPS as well. It does it for both. But the website, our web server is only has HTTP, right? So double checking. Yeah, so we only have port 80. We only have HTTP, and then we have HTTP down here. And look at all that. It gave us quite a bit of stuff. So, and these are file paths, right? So if we wanted to, so let's see, we have the test file path. So we go here, we copy that. Open up a web browser really quick. Put it in there. And now we have access to the test folder in the web application, and you can just keep running down. So in a real pen test, if you found stuff like this, this could lead to a lot of different things depending on what's in the files, right? Because these are just essentially like folders, only you can access them through the web application. So think about it like folders on your local computer, right? Same thing, it's just you're accessing it on the web. So we go back, and then we see that it has a bunch of other stuff, and we're not going to worry about all that. But the good thing that you need to remember is that this is all very crucial information that you can use, right? And not everything that you scan with Nikto is going to come up with anything, right? Especially in bug bounty stuff, you're not going to use Nikto a lot, if at all. You're going to use tools such as Burp Suite to do what you need to do. But Nikto is a great tool if you decide to do like Hack the Box and VulnHub and just hacking challenges. Nikto is a great tool to automate a bunch of tasks. And it also, if you do internal pen testing, it's a great tool to use to automate stuff, scanning a web server while you're doing other things, as well as if you're doing an external pen test. It might be a little tricky though external pen tests just because a lot of times external facing web servers have a lot more security built into them because they're facing the outside, right? So did everybody have a moment to catch up and at least try that? If, I take silence as affirmation, so if you guys are quiet in the chat, don't click.
Yep.
Again, guys, this is this is collaborative, open forum. So if anybody wants to talk or ask a question, you're more than welcome to. Do cyber criminals use these tools? Yes. So, the next thing we're going to talk about, RCE, remote code execution. Remote code execution, right? This is a vulnerability where you're able to, it says, can be exploited if the user input injected into a file or a string or whatever, right? Something into a web application can then be executed, right? It shouldn't be executed, but it can, right? It's not intended. You don't ever intend things like that to happen, right? But it can lead to full compromise of a system, right? Big, big, big issue, right? So essentially what that's saying is that you can run, think about it as saying you can find a parameter where you can actually run commands, right? You shouldn't, like a system command on a web application. You shouldn't be able to do that. It should only be able to render whatever is on the page, right? And then if you have to like search for something, it should have a search engine built in the web application that queries from the backend and everything.
John, is that like? Sorry, I remember there's an exploit that happened a while back where like essentially a Twitter image or some type of image had system code hidden in it, and so by looking at it, it would execute on the system as well or something. Is that kind of what you're talking about?
Kind of, but did someone actually find an issue and was able to like inject things into it? I don't know the vulnerability. Yeah, so if it's injection and remote code execution go hand in hand for the most part, right? Because injection allows you to run commands and query things from a database, right? It's the same thing. We're making system commands. So. And then I wanted to put a quick thing is that the biggest prevention that we can do is just to blacklist special characters. This is a big way of how we make sure that if we make a recommendation on like, hey, this is how you prevent this, just don't allow certain characters to be ran, right? Because we shouldn't be able to run system commands, right? You should also be able to evaluate user input. So when you type in your name, it should go to the back end, but before it goes to the back end, it should go through some kind of like quality assurance check and then make a callback to you just to double verify. And this all happens in the background. You're not going to see that. And then goes to the back end. So, all right. Now we're going to try that too. So let's pull our Kali Linux image back up. So this is going to be a little tricky. Right, we're going to be kind of going away from the system stuff, and we're actually going to be accessing our web terminal now. Oops, I accidentally closed down my Kali machine. So now we need to go. So this is going to get a little fast-paced. So if it's too fast, I'm sorry. I'll try to slow it down as much as I can because we're going to have a lot of different steps here. So we're going to need to go to DVWA. This stands for Damn Vulnerable Web App. So for those of you, make sure that what we're going to do is we're going to just punch in the IP of your target into the web or into a web browser, and then you'll have a menu that looks like this, and click on DVWA. You're going to be prompted with a username and password. It should be admin password. Give you guys a second. Well, you guys are getting there. Okay. So, username and password.
What is the password?
It should just be password. Yep, the username's admin, password is password. And again, this might be, if this gets a little fast-paced, what we're about to do, it's okay. This is being recorded. You guys can come back to it. Because we're going to do a couple different things, right? So, we have a tab here that says command execution. Before we do that, I want to make sure that security is on low, right? Just because we're doing this just to test out some things, to show you the examples. So, it says ping for free. Okay, well, I want to try to ping my machine. Or better yet, I want to ping this machine. So we're going to do 2.0.2.5. And as you can see, it's able to ping. It's able to ping itself. All right. What if I do, so now I know we can run a command. Okay. Ping is a system command. Okay. Well, now let's see. As you can see, I already have some things up in here where I've already tried out some things. So we can see if this will work. All right. Notice how I got the ID. I shouldn't be able to do that. Right? We shouldn't be able to, what that's saying is that's allowing us to parse other commands and run them. Right? And it's so www-data is the default user for managing the web page, right? So that's not a big user. Zoom in. Good? Well, I'll show you in just a second here. So again, we just type in, it's running the command ping. So we don't have to type ping, it's running the command ping. It's like if you were saying ping, right? If you're saying ping, but we're not running ping. It's running ping for us. So now what we can do is you can type in another command. So we hit pipe, right? Pipe allows you to concatenate multiple commands or multiple arguments, right? It says ping this and then run this command. And that's how it is for Linux, right? So we said ID, now I can say, okay, who am I? And it should come up with something similar. Looks like it's freezing. All right. Oh, there it goes. There you go. Remember, we did one more time, and then we're going to start. This is after this one. This is where it's going to start to get pretty fast-paced. So we now know. Okay, we have command execution. We can run system commands. How can I abuse this? As a pen tester or an engineer, a security engineer, you want to say, how can I abuse this to the fullest extent? Well, I could maybe get a connection. Okay. What's something even more? Oh, well, we can maybe even deliver like a payload. Right? So there's a couple things that we can do. So this is where it's going to get a little fast-paced in the beginner realm. We're going to take a big slope up for a second. So I have a PHP shell because we know, based off of our findings from NICTO, that that it's running PHP. We saw that in the NICTO scan. We saw PHP everywhere. Okay, cool. So now we know we have PHP. So I have a PHP shell here. If you want this PHP shell, all you have to do is type in locate shell.php. You'll have some shells in here. The best one to use would just be to use this one. It should all be in your Kali Linux distros. So I have it already ready to go. So if I cat this out, catting means we're gonna list out the contents of it, right? Actually, I don't like that. I'm gonna use gedit. Gedit is my editor of choice, as we talked about yesterday. We have this big crazy thing right here, right? It's a PHP shell. It's just PHP code. I'll remove all these comments. Right. And it's pretty simple, pretty straightforward for the most part. Everything is ready to go for you. It just comments out what you need to change, right? It says change this. So I changed it. I need to change this to the port of my machine. Okay. And then it says change the port. Because we're doing this in a test scenario in a controlled environment, we don't need to worry about that. However, you might need to change the port if you needed it to associate with a common port, because the web server might block uncommon ports. That happens a lot. So you might need to use something more common like port 80, port 443, things like that, right? So, but we're just going to leave it for 1, 2, 3, 4, just because it's easy to remember. But you want to make sure the IP is not asking the IP of the machine, it's asking the IP of our machine. So we'll go ahead, we'll save that. Can you share this file with us afterwards so we can play it at home? Yes, you can. But Kim, it's also, I put the file path of where it should be on your machine. That's in the chat notes as well right now. So there's that, right? And so you just copy that over into a file repo that you have on your machine. Okay.
John, I wasn't able to edit the file. Do you know why that might have been?
You're not able to edit the file?
Oh.
You should be able to.
Yeah, I see now.
Okay.
I put too much of the file path, that's why.
Gotcha.
Oops.
And I'm going to rename this. I'm going to just use the move command because I want to have it something a little bit easier. Now it's called moose.php. Okay. So now we need to figure out a way. Okay, we have our payload. We know it's running PHP. We know we can get it. Or we know that this thing will run system commands. There's a system command called wget. I think it stands for webget, if I remember correctly. Don't quote me on it. But what that does is it does a get command. It grabs whatever at an IP address that you associate it with, or I'm sorry, that you reference it to do a wget to get a file, right? So we have to think, how can we get this file, this shell that we just created, this PHP shell, over to the web server? Well, it's running system commands. Can it run wget? I don't know. Okay, well, how do we verify that? Well, I don't know. What we have to do is we have to set up a web server on our machine. Luckily, Python has a module built into Kali that allows you to do that in one command. So this is what we're going to do. I'll clear this out so it's a little at the top. So we're going to type in the command Python, tech m for modules, and the module we're going to use is called a simple HTTP server. Then we're going to need to specify it on a port, or you can just run this command as is. If you do, it should run it on port 8000. All right. So we have our file server running. It's running on port 8000. All right. Cool. So now we need run wget on this host, and it's running on port 8000. Right, so you always use the colon there. Right, so we're gonna do that, and then we're gonna specify the file path because we're running the server in that file, or in that folder. I'm sorry, in that folder, we can just go ahead and grab it. So again, we're using, it's just pinging, it's pinging itself, and then it's gonna, but it's, since we're running the pipe command, it's gonna forget about that, and then it's gonna run wget, and it's gonna, this is our local IP address. So it's saying get from this IP address on this port, this file. So we click submit. And as you can see, our web server says there was a GET request for this file. So what that means is that it went out and it got it. Right? So now our file has been transferred from our server to the web server. Let's see, GVR, but instead of uploading a shell, we can directly execute a one-liner on the command execution page and get a reverse shell if that works. Correct. You can do that as well. This is just one example of how we can do it. So, awesome. We have our file on the system. Great. So you can press Control-C to back out of that, out of your web server. So now remember, we set up the connection on, we needed to connect on port 1234. Okay. So there's a tool built into Kali or into Linux and that called Netcat that we can use that will set up a listener. It's going to use we're going to use this listener to basically tell our machine to say, hey, listen for connections coming in on this port. We're going to say, hey, listen for connections coming on port 1234. Because remember, in our shell, we told it, we assigned the port for it to call out to, we said 1234. So if we can execute that payload on the web server to call out on port 1234 to our machine, then our machine can listen on that connection. That command that you're going to use, it's just nc for netcat. We'll do listen and p for port 1234. And you can do v for both. Great. Now it's running. So now we have to say, okay, but how do we get our file to work? Right? Because we have to, now we have everything listening, we're sitting there wondering where it went, all that stuff, right? Well, I did it again. So now we got to go back here, right? So now all we have to do is we should be able to go hold on, I'm trying to double check. So if there's a, I believe it's a directory called hackable. There we go. So if we go to hackable, say we did some recon, right? And we figured out that it was unhackable. This is not where we were supposed to go. Because it should be in uploads. Right? So another command that we can run too to figure out where we went, or where this is at, is pwd. Oh, I see it in the no, or in the comments. So thanks, GBR. Okay, here we go. So it's in vulnerabilities. So sorry about that. Well, then we should just be able to type in that and see how it's hanging. So if we're storing things in here, that means that it grabbed it right there. So if we go here, now we can see that we have a shell.
When I type in a command, it just takes me to a directory page now.
It just takes you to a directory page?
It says directory listing for, and then that's it. I can't run any more commands out of the command execution.
Interesting. You might want to check the security level on your machine, on your target machine. Is that low? I don't know. I couldn't tell you without actually like taking a look at it.
No worries.
So, as you can see though, now we can see that we're on Metasploitable. We have this user, right? And this is the user ID that we have. So if we were to take this and send it in and we were on a pen test, we could say, hey, we were able to do RCE. We were able to do this. We were able to do, these multiple steps and eject commands, host commands, or operating system commands through the web browser. Shouldn't be able to do that, right? And by doing that, we compromised the system. And we would use something. So if we took like a screenshot of just this stuff, we would be able to say, hey, like this is how we got it, and they would be able to go back and fix that. So to reiterate what we just did, we looked at the web page. We discovered that we were able to execute system commands. We then realized that we could use the wget command because it was installed on the machine, so we were able to use that to make a call out to our machine, grab a payload, and then execute it, right? So we actually did command execution and file directory traversal, because that's what we did when we called this guy. So, and you could even call this so with a different command. So like let's say we cancel this out. This again, and we'll run this in the background. So you do that with an ampersand. So now it's just running in the background. It's still there. We copy the full path. Type in curl. And it queries the web page. And now we just did that all in one fell swoop. The command to pop the file into the server.
The PHP file, I just saved the PHP file into the workshop direction.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, or yeah, GVR put one in there. So it's just you run whatever for the first thing, then you pipe it, and then you do a wget to whatever the file. You have to have your IP in the port associated with the web server, and then the file name. How do I find the PHP file on my machine? Just search, do search shell.php, and you'll have some. I put the file path, it's somewhere in the comments. There it is. How can we go from www data to root through privilege escalation techniques, which we're not going to worry about right now? Or I'm sorry, not search, locate. Sorry, I have Metasploit on the brain. Okay, you're welcome. So that's a way how we can look at injection and how we can do some directory traversal, right? Command execution. We did a lot of things right there, right? That's why I said, you know, as soon as it was time that we figured out we had command execution, it was ramping up for a second there. So, let's see, we have an hour left. So let's keep going, because we still got a couple other things. So, and again, if you're getting a little lost, it's okay. There is a recording. So the next thing that we're going to talk about is cross-site scripting. We're just going to do one example, really, really simple, very, very straightforward. So the cross-site scripting attacks, these occur when an attacker uses a web application and sends malicious code. Typically, it's like in the form of like a script. You'll see a lot of times where you'll have it as an alert, right? And you send that to a different end user. The one that we're going to be looking at, it's going to be called reflective XSS. It's pretty dangerous. You can use it to do a lot of different things. I like the meme there in the chat. Sorry. So this one's pretty straightforward, guys. So, but you can use this to have the server reflect back data to you that it shouldn't reflect it back to you. Let's go ahead and let's jump back into it. So we're going to go to XSS reflected. So it's going to say, what's your name? My name is John. Oh, hello, John. Oh, hello. So that means it's reflecting things back to me that I put in there, right? And we're not going to worry about looking at all like the source code and anything like that, because this would be a lot longer if we look at that. Just know what's happening in the background is that it's taking in the data and then it's reflecting it back to you, right? And for those of you that have written programs and you know, like when you have like, especially like with Python, and it takes in the input and then you reflect it back to the user saying, oh, hello, and you put the variable in, which would be your name, and it reflects it back to you, right? It's like that kind of only in a web application sense, right? And while that's all good and gravy, we don't want it to be able to reflect certain things back to us. So what we can do is we can make script tags, right? And how we do that, we can write simple ones like this. This is very, very simple. Very, very simple. Or straightforward. I don't like using the word simple, right? So this is the script. This is the script tag right here, right? And then we can put stuff inside of it. So this can execute JavaScript. So what we can do is we can put an alert tag like this, and then we can just put anything inside of there, right? Saying alert, and it should be able to pop it, or it should show us the one. Yeah. And now you can see we've gotten one reflected back to us. Now, well, I don't want to go any more deep into that because it's a topic that you can get a lot into. you can have many different types of attacks come from cross-site scripting attacks, or lots of important data can be reflected back to the user that shouldn't be reflected. Typically in a pen test, if I ever find anything on a web server that allows us to that reflects anything back to me, I typically just use the most simple command to where it just reflects a number back to me, and then I say, okay, I take a screenshot of that and I make a report and I say, hey, like, you need to be able, like, this shouldn't be there, right? The impact is enough to, or it's impactful enough to have it there, right? So they by default should just say, okay, we're going to fix it. Is there any method that we can use to prevent this? I always say that you need to have input sanitation, right? And the input sanitation, or sanitizing input, however you want to put it, is it varies from application to application, right? Because things may be written differently, things may process things differently. There could be a lot of things going on in the background, right? But the biggest thing is always saying, like, hey, you need to make sure that the user input is being sanitized, and that's with a lot of different cross-site scripting. What's a real-world example of reflected XSS? A lot of times you'll see it in like forums, right? Because forums, it's just where you want to open up something and you want to type stuff in, right? And then it reflects it back into the web page. Its literal job is to take data and then reflect it back in the web page. And you'll see a lot of mistakes there, where you'll be able to reflect things back, and then a lot of times in parameters, where you have files being traversed, right? Such as, like, you can see it up here where it says name equals. This is a parameter. That's all it is. If I put John, it says, oh, hello, John. Or if I put workshop, oh, hello, workshop. It's not sanitizing. It's just taking the user input and saying, okay, here you go. You says with regex, I actually don't know. I would assume the best way is to, again, sanitize input. When you find things in an environment, whether it's an environment you know or an environment you don't know, you're always going to make sure that you research a little bit for each of your findings, because you will link your notes, such as if you store them somewhere, or if you find a web page that or a document on the internet that you can use as your primary source. You're going to have that in your pen test report saying, and here are my references that back what I'm saying, right? So you use your skill set, your body of knowledge in your noggin to do these things, and then when you're reporting it, you use it, you research on the best methods, right? Because methods could change, right? And so you want to make sure that you're using the latest references to back your story and back the purpose of why you're saying something should be fixed in the manner that it should be fixed, right? And I'm looking to see. You're welcome.
And I tried this command during the security is high, and it will show the command as a string. Does it just transfer what we entered into a comments?
Say it one more time.
I switched the security option from low to high, and the output is correct. If we enter the command script alert, it only shows like string what we entered. So what does how to say that? So how did it transfer to the correct output? What is behind the back?
Oh, like in behind? It could vary, right? It could vary. And like I said, I didn't want to go looking in the source code because otherwise we're going to take away from the rest of the workshop. However, if you want to, like, again, if you want to know more about like how everything works in the background and how this can be, how this works, how it operates, right, and how it can be prevented, there's a lot of resources out there. Like I said, it's in this case, in the background, it's taking user input, right, and then it's feeding it back to you. That's all it's doing. That's all it's doing. And then to prevent it, you need to make sure that it's taking that input and sanitizing and making sure that certain things aren't being executed, such as like we executed that script tag. They shouldn't do that.
Yeah, I assume that the website just transfer this into strings if the security is high. Is this correct?
If the security is high, yeah, then there's different ways, right? And we're not going to get into that because, again, that'll get way far off what we're doing.
Way deep. Okay.
Yeah, because this is basic, right? And if for those of you that want to keep going and doing this, there's different levels in this application that you can use to test your skills or to learn new things, right? So so there's a lot of different things that you can do. Okay. So before we keep getting off topic, so now, sorry. We want to talk about injection, right? So injection is where we just saw it, like right where we did command execution. However, now we can take that another step forward and we can look at SQL injection, right? So SQL injection is essentially where we're able to run SQL commands. And there's a lot of various ways how you can find this. If you find it in the real world, it can be one of those things where you have to pump the brakes on a pen test because it's a big issue. Because what this does is this allows you to query information from the back end, which you should never be able to do. The front end and the back end should never be able to be talked to by the user in that kind of sense ever. So we're going to take a basic look at SQL injection. Time is a little shorter than I anticipated, so we're only going to look at a way of how we can query something. However, just know that based off of what we're going to be looking at, you can actually get a shell as well. So we're going to do this really quick, then we're going to go into our scenario, and then we'll wrap it up. So let me try to find my machine. So now we're going to go into SQL injection. Right, so we have this guy right here. Okay, so it says user ID. Let's type in 1. Okay, so now it says that the user ID of 1 is admin, right? All right, so we know the admin user is 1. Okay, so now we know that it's 2, right? So on and so forth, right? So we're executing something that's then querying something from the back end, kind of. Because then, like, notice here where it says ID up here in the URL, it has the ID. And in pen testing, a lot of times when you have access to this, you'll just kind of like flip through it, see what you can do. So it says and submit, right? And you could create a script to just like kind of start cycling through them and feed you the input for everyone, right? So now that we know we can do that, now we can put something in here. When we're doing SQL injection, one of the first things I always do is I just put a little tick in there, like that. It says you have an error in your SQL syntax. So what that tells us is that, oh no, it's running, or it tells us it's running SQL, and it says, oh no, it's not really parsing anything. Like we know that we're able to get queries from the back end like this, and it's not sanitizing anything. All right, well, it shouldn't do that. So now let's try something else. So now we say, okay, well, let's see what happens if we do this. All right, we still got another issue. All right, but we know that this caused the issue. So in SQL, you have different ways to select things. One of the big things that you'll see with SQL injection is where you can bind things together. And we do that by running a command called union select. So now, what we should be able to do, oops. So now we're saying, okay, process that. And one, and something we would want to know when we're doing anything is we want to know the version of the server or the database or whatever's running on the back end, right? We can escape that using a pound if we need to. And now we see that we have the back end. We know what type of server is being run on the back end, right? It's Ubuntu. That's what's running the Metasploitable image. So you could do a lot of damage with this, right? A lot of damage. And again, while I'm not gonna, we're running a little low on time. I would, for those of you that are interested, you can actually take this a step forward, and you can actually use a tool called SQL Map, and you can use that to actually get a reverse connection on this machine, kind of like how we did with the remote command execution just a minute ago. You can do the same thing. You just have to use a tool called SQL Map. I'll put that in the chat notes for you. So, and there's a lot of ways of how you can actually get a connection on the backend database doing it. It's a lot of fun to test around and play around with. Is that part of Kali by default? On the one I'm using, yes, and I got this one. This is the last edition of 2014, so, or the last iteration of 2014 now. So I haven't messed around with any of the 2020 versions. So, all right, cool deal. I figured it'd be there. If it's not, it's also on GitHub. SQL injection is based on the SQL command line. No, SQL injection is based off of commands being processed on the front end, the client side, what we're doing, and being processed on the back end without any sanitation whatsoever. We shouldn't be able to get information like this. It hasn't been updated in 76 days. Yeah, SQL Map, you have to update it every time you run. There's a lot of tools that you use to scan that you have to update as you kind of use them. So. Right. So, but that's basic SQL injection. It's a big topic. So, again, if this seems a little much, don't worry. So, now let's go ahead and move forward. All right. So now we're going to jump into our scenario. This is the fun part. So let's say we're a third party and somebody hires us on. Okay. So somebody hires us on and they said, so we've been hired on to assess their new Apache Tomcat server, right? They want us to test the following. They want us to try to brute force it, which we haven't done, but we're going to do. A little bit about pen testing is kind of learning while you go sometimes as well. We're going to look at web vulnerabilities, and if possible, we're going to fully exploit the web server. Okay, so we need to brute force. We need to find some vulnerabilities that we can exploit and try to maintain persistent access on the machine. All right, so, okay, so now we need to make up our attack path. All right. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to discover the web server, right? We've already done that. We've scanned it, all that good stuff. Then we need to discover the services, right? We discover the services by scanning it. Now we need to brute force it. Brute forcing means that you're going to basically try a bunch of random combinations of usernames and passwords until something works, right? It's going to go through a bunch of different things, right? So we're going to use a dictionary brute force attack where we just run through a list to attack it, right? And then we're going to look for common vulnerabilities in the web application. We're going to get some persistent access, and we're going to leave proof that we actually exploited the machine. This is how we would really do it in a real pen test. If a client were to give us something such as this, we would say, okay, this is how we're going to do it. Remember yesterday we talked about attack paths, attack plans, how we execute them? This is how we do it. And if this doesn't work, then you go back to the drawing board. So now let's go ahead and get to it. So let me bring up my Kali machine again. All right. So there you go. Okay. Go to the So I already have some stuff set up, pre-staged for us to go. So we need to discover the host, right? So the host for my machine is 10.0.2.5. All right, awesome. We have the asset, we have the target in sight. All right. Let's run our nmap scan one more time. We're just going to run a simple service scan. Actually, I'm going to use a tool called Cherry Tree. It's a great note-taking tool. So we're going to do assess web server. This is how we would do it, in an actual pen test. You make sure that you keep something updated. It's there. All right, so we're assessing the web server. So now we need to make a branch off of this. So we'll call it scan. All right, we would put all of our scan into our notes. Okay, and you don't have to use Cherry Tree. I use Cherry Tree in Notepad and OneNote when I'm taking notes while I'm pen testing. So this is completely up to you on how you take the notes. This is just in the way of how you document things, right? Because you want to document key points of your attack paths, because we would illustrate that in a pen test report or in a security report, right? So let's take a look at what we have, right? All right. You install it. There's a command. If you Google it really quick, it'll tell you. Or you should be able to get it too with the update. The update should automatically have it once I checked. So we noticed that we have a couple different web servers, right? So we have this Apache server. All right, we already went there. So let's say we check that one. That would be the first one we go to. We just went on that. And that's not the one that we want to look at. We would, report to the client, say, hey, like we found this. And they could say, no, no, that wasn't it. All right, let's say that we say, okay, we take this one out. Don't even worry about it, right? What about this one? We got one down here that looks kind of interesting, right? So what we're going to do now is we're going to go check it out. So we need to make sure that we access it over that port. So it was 8081. Did I do something? That was not over 8081. Oh, 8180. Silly me. Okay. So we know now that we got this Apache Tomcat server that we're running in the background. Awesome. So you would kind of like look around at this and you say, okay, like, I see a file path here, that's it. Do I see a version or anything? Copyright 1999 to 2005. That means the last time this would have been updated was maybe 2005, which is a long, long time, obviously. All right. Let's see what else. Oh, we can look at the status. Oh, we have to have credentials. You put in admin password. Can't get in. All right. Tomcat administration. That seems to want to hang for a second. So the Apache Tomcat manager needs to try admin. Nope, doesn't work. Doesn't matter because they want the client wanted us to test and see if we could brute force, right? So now what we'll do is we're going to load up exploit again. So if you left it open, you should be able to have it. You should already have it open from using it previously, right? So there, if you do search again, we do Tomcat. All you have to do is do Tomcat, and you should see some things in here, right? Because we want to see if we can brute force. So now we have, I believe it is this guy right here. So we're going to use the auxiliary scanner. Actually, no, we want to use this one. Sorry, the manager login. And you're going to want to use that one. We're going to say use. Okay. Let me. I realize this can kind of make the background look a little fuzzy. So we're going to load up that auxiliary scanner, right? The auxiliaries are usually just they usually are things that scan or check for vulnerabilities or check for certain things on a system, typically. So okay, we have this loaded up. Now we need to look at the options that we have. Oh man, there's a lot. Let me see if I can make it. Try that again. Okay, so we can see that it already has a user file right here, right? And then it has a password file that it's going to use. So it's going to use these ones. We're going to check for default credentials. That's the first thing that we always want to do. You always want to check and scan for default credentials because those are easy targets, right? So now, then all we really need to do, we need to change two things. We need to change the R host, right? That's our remote host. That's the one that we're targeting. We also need to double check our port because this is not the port that we're targeting. So remember, you use the set command. We're going to use the R host. We're going to set it to the target. We're going to do our port 8180. So now we have that set. We just hit run. And that's it. So now we got to go through here. And as you can see, everything with a red line is incorrect. All right. Hey, well, look at that. We got a hit. Cool. Now we can log in. So we can check that off the box. We said, hey, this is how we brute forced. This is how easy it was. You create that and you create that into a finding. You use something like this. You create a screenshot like this and say, hey, this is how we did it. You can ask, did you find any? Did you get any alerts from us brute forcing it? If you did, how long did it take for you to respond? If you didn't, we need to talk about implementing some monitoring solutions. But if you did, how long did it take you to respond? Did it take you days? Did it take you hours? Did it take you minutes? Right? What was the plan of action after you detected it? How long did it take for you to reach out? How long did it take for you to blacklist the attacking IP? Right? That's a lot of things as a pen tester that you're going to ask, and that because you're going to log this as a finding. You're going to say, hey, we brute forced, it didn't get logged. We also found default credentials. And you ask a lot of questions. Part of being a pen tester is asking questions. You know, you'll hear a lot of times about cybersecurity engineers being the police of the computer force, right? Of the computer world. Think about like pen testers almost being like the SWAT team sometimes of cybersecurity. They're the ones that go in and really go in there, and then they ask questions, and you do a lot of detective work, and you have to reference everything that you do, and you have to back up a lot of what you say. But what you say holds a lot of weight, right? And what I mean by that is the things that you say, organizations aren't going to take lightly. They're going to take it in, and they're going to say, hey, we got to fix this, right?
Hey,
so
John,
the
real
more
quick.
yeah.
Sorry. So is this really only when they ask for us to look for brute force attacking specifically? Like, because I know a lot of, at least nowadays, passwords after 5 attempts, right, you get locked out, which is the point of that, is to stop brute force attacks, right?
Yes, but that's only, that's like you're talking about like domains, like brute forcing domain credentials.
Mm-hmm.
Applications aren't part of that. Most of the time aren't part of that rule, right? Unless you're using domain credentials to get into it. But if it's just local credentials, unless they set a lockout policy, there typically isn't anything there that prevents that. So, and it depends from environment to environment, right? You'll see environments where they do have lockout policies. You'll see where they have monitoring solutions where if you start seeing something getting pinged and just scanned like that, you're going to get alerted, right? So, and that's when, I mentioned like being a pen tester, you learn a lot as you work. A lot of it is just about learning and learning and learning while you work. And you use your experiences from pen test to pen test to make your next pen test better. And to make your efforts on the next pen test better. The other thing is too, is that if you're an internal pen tester, or even if you have a company that you're doing it for clients, your job is to actually, and believe it or not, your job is to make your job next time harder, right? Because you go into a company and you find a bunch of issues and you say, hey, you got to fix these issues. A lot of them were probably pretty easy to find. Guess what happens next time you go around, you have to assess that network, and only maybe 10% of it changed. It's going to be a lot harder for you to find things. So, again, pen testing, you have to be committed to learning. So, again, we would find this, we would report it, we'd say, hey, where's the logging, where's all the alerts, all that good stuff, right? So, we brute force now. So, we would create something else. We say brute force. I made a subnode a subnode of that subnode. Okay. So we would just say, okay, cool. That was our successful one. We used Metasploit. And then you would put in and those are like, that's chicken scratch notes, right? But we could use that for later, right? And you can make a story off of that. So the next thing that we want to do is we want to log in, right? So let's go to that manager. All right. So it's Tomcat. All right. I see what's going on here. So it looks like, wait a second, we have a place where we can do file upload. Interesting. Does it sanitize? Let's see. So I think I have a, yep, I have a random moose here, as you can see, right? We have a WebP file, just a general file, right? Because this says war files can be deployed. Let's see if we can deploy that. It failed. It has to be a war file. All right. Well, oh, let's say we were like, okay, we got to make a war file that we can upload. Can we create a war file like how we would create a shell to connect back on? So this is the part where you would go and you go Google, right? Or you'd have it in your notes. Sometimes you'll be on a network, or you'll be, if you like, especially if you work for the DoD, you would be in an area where you don't have access to the outside internet. So you carry around books like this. I don't know if you can see it. Kind of. No, can't really see it. But it's the operator handbook. It's a big book with a lot of different commands. User share, let me check. So Josh put one in the, so he put one in the chat notes. Because I don't have that. Oh, I don't have that because I didn't // this should be able to work. However, we don't even have to go find it, right? Because we can actually create one. Right, so there's a tool that we can use. It's called MSF Venom, right? And it creates encoded payloads that we can then upload to targets, right? And it does a lot of different stuff. But for this sake of the argument, and for this purpose of the exercise, we're going to create a war file, right? So we can use MSF Venom to create a payload on a certain that calls back to our machine, just like we did with the RCE. We created that PHP payload. We're going to do the same thing. So the command is MSF Venom, or you can just type it. You can type in half the command and then hit tab. And then we're going to specify the type of payload with the TACP command. I'll specify our machine, and I know I'm going fast. I'll break it down here in a second. We'll choose the default port. We'll do that, and then we need to give it a file name.
Is that the local machine or the target machine?
Oh, so yeah, good question. I'm gonna break it down really quick. So what you can see here is we've typed in the command. We've assigned the payload has a JavaScript shell. This L host stands for localhost. So this is our machine right here, right? That's the IP of my Kali machine. And then I'm just saying that we're going to create the connection over 444. Right? Actually, we already have a connection over 444 that already got established later, so I'm going to try, didn't it? Right? Yeah, at the beginning. So let's do 455. So now we're going to create that. Just press enter. It's going to take a second. It'll create it. And then if you need, for those of you that need the command, of course, change the local host to yours. All right. Now you can see we have this guy. Here's this 4 bytes bigger. That's all right. Fortunately, we're not worried about the buffer or anything. So, all right. So now we're gonna go back here, and we're gonna upload this war file. So go back to we're going back to the target web server on the admin page, the manager page that we got access to by brute forcing. So now they've asked us to discover vulnerabilities, right? So we discovered a potential vulnerability where you have file uploads. So now what we're going to see is if we can upload this and then have it call back out to our machine, because it shouldn't be able to do that. So we'll go ahead, we'll deploy it. The server says, okay, awesome. Should have it somewhere in here. There's our payload, right? So you can see different ones in here, right? There's one here that says shell. Don't worry about that. That's from I just wanted to make sure that it would work. So we have our payload in. Now we got to set up a netcat listener. However, I want to do something a little different. So if we go back to Metasploit, or actually no, we're not going to use Metasploit because that'll take a second. So we're just actually going to use netcat. So sorry about that. So we're going to do the same thing, but we're going to specify it. I specified mine on port 445, right? So now we're going to listen on port 445. Now, what we're going to do, we're going to go to this server, and we're going to click on this. All you have to do is you have to click on it, and then it's going to run, right? And look at that. We are now on the Tomcat server. So now we have gotten access to the server, right? So we've beaten this thing up. We've gotten a root shell, we've gotten a web shell, now we're on there as a Tomcat user, right, for the Apache server. We've beaten this metasploitable image up quite a bit, right? So this is where you would be able to take an image here, right? You take an image of this terminal, and you say, look, we were able to get a reverse connection, we were able to bypass whatever security going on, and we were able to get a connection, and that's it, right? You take a screenshot right there, and that's a big finding. If something like this was in an actual pen test, we would, anytime you can get a reverse connection, an unauthorized reverse connection such as this on a machine, it's always labeled as a critical, right? And that's because that means that, you know, somebody would be able to do this and get access to the machine directly, and that's
when
always
that happens. Do you have to like stop everything and let people know right away, kind of thing, or?
That's a good question. No, it depends. It depends. So if I got on here, say this was a machine that hosted sensitive data, such as like credit cards, social security numbers, things like that, then yes, you have to stop 100%. In the healthcare industry, if you find something that's hosting personal health information, PHI, absolutely 100%, you stop. At this point, I wouldn't know anything though, right? So you start pilfering the machine, right? Listing out all the file content, start going into things, seeing what you can find, and you would, off your best judgment there, you would say, okay, I need to stop and I need to tell someone, or you just keep going, and at the end of the pen test, however many days it is, you would log it and tell them. If it's a critical, it means they have to fix it quick. Like I think it's within it's either 7 or 30 days, somewhere around there.
Do we ever, or do you ever, I guess, and pen testers in general, do you guys automate your, when it comes to scraping through files like that, or do you actually just go through each single file one at a time and look at?
So that's a good question. You can look for, there's keywords that you can find, like if I wanted to find something that was sensitive, then yeah, I would. It depends. Like and it depends on organization to organization and how they're going to store things, right? But you might want to look at like PDFs, because like bank statements are usually on like PDFs, things like that, right? You want to look if you can find like some kind of Excel sheet or something that's like that, right? Because typically Excel sheets have, you know, quantifiable data that pertains usually to like a person, right? Anytime I found anything that it has things that are like it's a quantity of something, right? That when it's useful, or not useful. I'm sorry, when it's impactful. Meaning, like, I might find a spreadsheet with salaries on it. That shouldn't be there. It shouldn't be there or be there in plain text or allow me to see it, right? Especially if I got on as this user. But the big thing is, like, yeah, just trying to you have to use your best judgment. You have to pilfer through things and find things. But it's typically on a case by case basis, because depending on the organization that you're working with, they'll store files differently, right? And also, to drive another point is when you're, say this was a target, right? And say we were working with a bank, we would be told beforehand if there is potential sensitive information on here, right? Because a lot of times when we have the test for compliance, which we talked about yesterday, you would know if there might be sensitive information on there. So you'll dig really heavily to make sure that, like, all of it's encrypted, that you can't just access it, anybody can access it, things like that. And then something else that was brought up too was that, with privilege escalation, right? We're a user right now, right? We're not root. The reason why I don't want to dive deep into priv-esque with this class is because there's a lot of different ways of how you can escalate privileges. And in pen testing, typically, you don't really worry about privilege escalation if you get a connection on a machine. You worry about privilege escalation when you're testing new operating systems that are being introduced into a system, or if something, a new host is being introduced that has an older variant of an operating system, but they made some changes or something, right? You do it more locally because typically operating systems, in my experience, they get cloned on all the machines. So if you can priv-esc on one machine, you can do it on all of them, right? So you do it in an isolated environment where you just do one at a time. Because in a situation like this, in a pen test, I wouldn't worry about priv-esc. I'd be like, okay, I got a reverse connection. That's a big issue. And then I'd be like, okay, what else can I find on here? Is there any sensitive information that shouldn't even be here, right? Because that's how you're going to help drive home impactful findings to an organization and help them remediate those issues, right? Because if I did that, if I worried about, like, okay, now I got to see if I can get the root account, that's going to take away a lot of time from anything else that I have to pen test. If we make it so that, we can't get a reverse connection on here, that's going to remediate the majority of the problem. So. But yeah, so that was it. That's the scenario, and that's in a real world pen test of how you would tackle it, and focal points that you would look at. You would take screenshots, you'd make notes, right? So like here, we would take a quick screenshot. To prove that we got a connection. There you go. You have notes now. These are some simple notes, but I mean, this is in the grand scheme of things, you could use this enough, right, to where you could make a story out of this, right? You'd say, okay, I found the service, right? We were able to brute force. You might go back and say we found this version of the operating system, or I'm sorry, this version of the web server. You might find some CVEs connected to it as well. But for the main point, this is what's going to drive home, and where if you put this on a pen test report and somebody's going to go, oh, uh-oh, right? And you're going to get things fixed. All right. So, I feel like this was not long enough, guys. 4 hours to go over this. So what have we learned? We've learned some basic pen testing stuff, right? Again, like I said, this wasn't going to go into a lot of deep topics because pen testing is a big thing, so to speak, right? You can do a lot of different things in pen testing. There's a lot of different avenues that you can go down with pen testing. It's a huge field for anyone that's interested in it. And it's not just about hacking things, it's about making businesses better stronger, more resilient, right? Making them more competitive. It's not just about hacking things. It's also about looking at a business as a whole and making it better. Rather that's technical, operational, and so on and so forth. So what we did though is we looked at some basics of pen testing, right? Tried to help illustrate some real scenarios that I've gone through and try to implement them into a couple situations with Metasploitable, right? So we looked at ports, services, talked about low-hanging fruit, and looked at web vulnerabilities, right? So the next question that I get is how can I get into pen testing? How can I do that? How do I maintain it? Well, this is my a mantra, so to speak, that I go by. It's staying curious and giving back, right? And the way to stay curious is to stay live in the communities. You can do that on Reddit, Discord, Slack. Create blogs, whether that be technical or non-technical. Whether you want to do a write-up of something like this, and you actually show like yourself executing commands, or starting a video blog on YouTube, and even publishing things, right? And there's a million different ways how you can do that on the internet. To keep up with technical chops and learn new things, you can see here, there's different subscriptions that you can get to. There's TryHackMe, VulnHub, Hackbox, and Pentester Academy. All right, those are 4 services that I highly recommend. And you'll spend about $25 a month. And then find your niche, right? Like I said, pen testing is a big thing. Big realm. There's a lot of different avenues you can go down. So there's cloud, development, exploit development, system security, network security. Academia is even becoming a big one, right? Web security, application security. So many different things that you can specialize in now. So many things. So find something that you really like. If this is a career field that seems interesting to you, find something that you like and just go with it. And then the big thing is find a mentor. Find multiple mentors. Find someone that you can talk to, that you can always go to if you have questions. And remember, there aren't any dumb questions. So find someone that you can talk to, that you can get advice from, and then find people that you can give advice to, right? Find a mentee or find multiple. Find people that you can help out. That's about giving back, right? And then find other student pen testers or professional pen testers. Typically, the professional pen testers are obviously going to be more of your mentors. If you're a junior pen tester or student trying to get into pen testing, or even a professional trying to get into pen testing, find other student pen testers. Because those are the ones that are hungry. Those are the ones that are learning the most, because they're trying to get into the industry, right? So they're constantly learning, and they have mentors that you can meet, right? And they find out new ideas and all this good stuff, right? So find other people that are in the same situation as you, or below or above, right? It's all about just community, basically. And then sign up for bug bounty programs. That's the best way how you can learn web hacking, because it's real life. You know, you can exploit something in a maintained environment, right? Like what we just did, but you're only going to learn so much from that, right? You're going to learn the techniques, but you're not going to learn the real world fundamentals. So, closing thoughts is you start, you fail, you learn, you grow, and that's what pen testing is all about. It's about growing, and unfortunately, you have to fall in order to get back up, right? And that's how you learn. And eventually, you don't learn anymore. Or I'm sorry, eventually you stop falling less, or start falling less, right? And then again, so one of the big things that I always say is security is a journey. It's not a destination, right? It's a never-ending learning experience. You're constantly evolving, constantly building your skill set. And then this is me. This is me in a hacker mask on my way to the doctor not too long ago. But this is various places where you can follow me on GitHub, on Medium. Medium is the blog that I have. And then also I have a website, which is the one at the top. and my LinkedIn. So now I give the last 5 minutes to you guys. Should Joe walk into a bank?
Should we raise our hands
Kind
virtually or
of.
just ask questions?
Just ask questions.
Go ahead, you.
I kind of lost in the middle, but so I created the file, the most war file, and uploaded it to the website, but my port doesn't. My port haven't listened anything. Why?
You might want to just double check the port, double check to make sure that you made the war file correctly. Those are most of the time.
I'm sure it's the correct IP address, local host IP address, and local port. Should I open the file in the website? I opened it. I opened the moose file under the direction, but it still doesn't listen anything.
Huh. You should just be able to execute it straight from the file, from the web GUI, kind of like how we did, right? Where, right? You don't have to go here. You just can. It should, when you upload it, it should be in the applications, right? In the application section of the manager, and you should just be able to click on it.
So yeah, I did that, but my listening program doesn't listen anything. Haven't.
But I would say I can't. Outside that, I couldn't tell you, because usually there's something. Because this is all, in a controlled environment and everything's pretty straightforward. So I would just double check your command. Just double check it, right? Make sure it's calling to your machine. I can't tell you how often, like, I'll look up a script and I'll accidentally.
Can you show the results in the listening after the listening command in your terminal?
Is right here. And then it says connect, right? And it says it connects from this machine, or from the target machine.
Should I open the port, because I use Nmap to detect the ports in my local Kali machine, but it shows there isn't any port open.
No, because it wouldn't be open. So I would just double check your shell again. Just double check your shell. Make sure it's calling to your machine. If you're able to execute it on the server, make sure that it's calling to your machine, right? Not to the target machine. Or if you copied my script, make sure that you change the IP to your machine's IP. So, I got time for like maybe one or two more questions if anybody has another question.
I have two quick questions. So me and Kim both have a question on the 55708 that shows up. Is that supposed to be like a designator for the compromised machine on the terminal there? Or does
Right
it just
here?
have no meaning? Yeah.
Actually, that's a good question that I can't answer. I don't. I've never actually paid attention to that. If I had to guess, maybe the port opened up.
See, we opened up on 4455 though, didn't we?
Well, no, yeah. So we opened up. Sorry, my brain is tired today. So maybe that's the service, the process.
Service would make sense.
The process. I'm sorry, the process that opened up. That might be the ID that popped up for it, but
okay.
That's just a guess. It's just a guess. I actually don't. I couldn't confidently say because I've never really paid attention to that. But if I had to guess, it probably, because it wouldn't make sense for it to be a port, but it would make more sense for it if it was like a process.
That makes
Again,
sense. Other quick question was, so in the beginning, yesterday and everything else, one of the big things you kind of talked about was programming languages, right? And getting more into programming and whatnot. Would you really say that's a really big thing when it comes to even getting in the pen testing field? Like, I have basic knowledge of Python, but I'm not very well advanced with it. Would that be a hindrance, I guess?
No. You know, different employers are going to want different things. And that's why I said yesterday, you know, you're going to see pen testers from all sorts of different walks of life. There are going to be ones that were like, you know, C++ programmers before, some that were like Python scripters, and some that, you know, don't even know how to code, but they know how to read code, right? And with pen testing and code, it's good to know how to code, but you don't have to be a programmer per se. And even in this day and age, and I'm not knocking on anybody who's a programmer, even in this day and age, a traditional programmer more copies and pastes snippets of code to make something, right? And then but their knowledge helps them understand like what they have to cut and paste, and then they have to edit things, right, to make it into something that they need. And that it's the same thing with pen testing, right? You have to be able to understand the code. You don't even have to be able to put it together. It's when you get into tool writing and tool development and exploit development that yes, you need to know how to program, especially with if you ever get into like exploit dev, you have to know assembly, you have to know Python, because a lot of the scripts that you'll make to attack your targets will be written in Python. And then it's always good to know like C++ just because of .NET and because of Microsoft. And then Java, HTML, right? It's good to know those with the web applications, right? So long story short, do you have to know programming? No. Is it good to know it? Yes. Do you have to write it? No. Do you have to be able to read it? 100%. Right? It's kind of like speaking a language. When you speak a second language and you might be able to understand it but not speak it, right? But you still understand it. It's the same thing, right? It's better to understand it. And if you're not a traditional programmer, worry about understanding it, because then you'll understand how everything's put together and how things are interpreted and how they work and interconnect with everything, right? But you don't know how
on the stack, right? Kind of thing.
Yes. Yeah. And then for a programming language that you need to know to write, if you're worried about like starting to write things and create things, is Python, because Python will allow you to create scripts, allow you to script things together, put commands together, and also create tools that can help automate things for you. Do you have to be a Python programmer? No. If you guys saw some of the stuff I write, it's some of the ugliest. It would be you all, I'm 100% positive, could school me in a Python lesson, because I write some of the ugliest Python code ever. But I just get it to work, right? And a lot of pen testers are like that, where it's just, you got to make it work, right? You don't have to make it elegant or anything, because your job is to basically solve a technical puzzle, so to speak. So again, learn Python and then learn how to just read programming, right? Understand, and languages kind of have similar syntax to each other, so you can be able to read it. So I know that was like a 2 for 1. I got time for one more question. Anybody ask?
Two people are asking when the next workshop will be.
Somebody asked when the next workshop will be. Sometime. Maybe. I don't know yet. Maybe by the end of the summer, if I'm able to get that far. I want to do another workshop sometime soon that focuses more on a more direct topic with pen testing. So I was thinking about cloud pen testing, because it's a fun topic to talk about, and it's not actually as technical as you would think it is. It's more of a business process and a business scheme and a business plan rather than a technical assessment. Not saying it's not technical at all. It's still technical, but it's a lot more business heavy too. So you learn a lot more different things about pen testing. So if there is another workshop in the near future, it'll be sometime near the end of summer before the fall semester begins. So that's
wait. So should the L host with the blank space?
no, you don't have to have a blank space.
Oh, I see the question. I see the problem.
Okay.
I added a blank space after L host.
Oh yeah, that might be that could cause an issue. Like I said, it's always a lot of times it's user error, but we don't ever want to say we messed up. And trust me, I've been doing this for a while and I still mess up every day. So, so with that, I really appreciate everyone who made the time to come out. I hope you learned something new. Hopefully, some of the experiences that I've had that have leaked into the workshop have helped give you guys a broader idea of what pen testing is. If pen testing is something that you're interested in, please feel free to follow me. Again, like on LinkedIn, I write blog posts pretty regularly, or at least a few times a month, and they're all typically regarding pen testing. So again, thank you again, everyone, for coming out. And if you have any questions or anything after this, feel free to follow me and ask me away. So.
Thank you.
I want to say thank you, John, for spending the time to make this for us. It's super interesting. Thank you so much for preparing.
You're welcome. I'm glad you guys. So.
Can we, before everybody leaves, if you guys are comfortable, can we, you guys open your camera, maybe take a picture together? You guys are okay with it?
Will it populate the whole thing?
Huh? Yeah.
My hair is a mess. Yeah. I didn't know this was happening.
Can you stop sharing the screen so everybody can show up?
Me? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. I'm gonna turn on my virtual background as well.
Yeah, if you don't want everybody to see what your house looks like, I highly recommend the virtual background. That is why I have one.
Mario's house looks awesome. He's got a
yeah.
Is that a Triceratops?
And a T-Rex. Mario, you're still muted.
Cool. You go find those in the yard?
How do I make everyone show up in one? Oh, let's see. Oh, hello. Hi. Hi, Josh. Now we can see your face. That's cool. Hi, David.
David looks like
Don't pay attention to the messy house behind me.
We will try not to. Okay, we're gonna capture
like
the people who have cameras. Okay, ready?
What? Oh, say cheese.
Oh yeah, say cheese. 3, 2.
I can only do this so long.
Okay. Oh wait, is it Aaron?
Aaron's coming. Hold up. Aaron's just laying down.
Hello. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Thank you guys for suffering.
Right.
Thank you so much, John.
You're welcome. I'll again, if anybody has any questions or anything, I got to get going. But if you have any questions about what we did over the past 2 days, if you have any questions about getting into pen testing or anything regarding pen testing, please feel free to send a message out to me, and I'll gladly help you out.
Would you
So.
help us